What is going on, Headliner Nation? Hopefully everyone's doing well out there. Today we're talking about our quarterback and tight end rankings here for Week 12 fantasy football. Now this will be our last ranking show of the week here. We got everything out by the end of the day Wednesday. It was not easy, but we wanted to be sure that you had all 9 videos ready to go before Thursday game, so you had all the information you needed to make those final lineup decisions. Now, if at the end of this show you still need more rankings like flex rankings, kicker rankings, defense rankings, maybe you want access to our Discord, access to Sunday morning live streams for members only, you can do that by hitting the little blue join button right underneath the video. We have assembled the least toxic fantasy football Discord there is in this entire industry. It's full of like-minded people that just enjoy being around each other, and if that's something you'd like to be a part of, it's all part of the member perks. But now it's time to dive into the rankings. So let's kick it off here with our quarterback rankings right here at the top once again. It's Josh Allen. And Josh Allen had a great bounce back week last week, but now he gets a great matchup this week going up against Philadelphia, who allows a ton of points through the air. Josh Allen sitting right here at number 1. Number 2, it's Dak Prescott. I had to put him this high. A matchup against Washington is a matchup made in heaven when it comes to fantasy football, especially when a quarterback like Dak Prescott has been playing so well. Number 3, it's Jalen Hurts. He's got that matchup going up against Buffalo, a Buffalo defense that is very banged up right now, and we know that Jalen Hurts can help give you a better fantasy day on the ground, so he's at number 3. Number 4, it's Patrick Mahomes, and a lot of people growing a little bit restless with Mahomes, but it's not his fault. His wide receivers have more drops than any other team in the league. Now a matchup on the road against Las Vegas and what I consider a must-win game. I got Mahomes at 4. 5 is CJ Stroud, playing great football right now, racking up a ton of stats, a lot of touchdowns, and a great matchup against Jacksonville. I got him at 5. 6, this is where I have Lamar Jackson in another dream matchup going up against the Chargers. Now, obviously, the ceiling for Lamar is going to be a little bit lower with no Mark Andrews, but as long as we can get Odell Beckham on the field this week in this matchup, I got Lamar at number 6. Number 7 is Brock Purdy, and I believe I mentioned it in my quarterback video earlier in the week. So much attention gets paid to the offense in Miami, but in my opinion, this fully healthy offense in San Francisco is much more consistent when it comes to their big name players. Brock Purdy at number 7. Which will then take us down to number 8. It's Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears. He came back from injury last week, put up fantasy points. Now he gets a great matchup going up against Minnesota. Hoping for another one of those 100-yard rushing games. I got Fields at number 8. Number 9, it's Kyler Murray in a matchup going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Now Kyler's kind of spreading it around in the passing game, but he's not hesitating to tuck the ball and run. Something he may have to do with Aaron Donald chasing him down. I got Kyler Murray at number 9. Number 10, it's Tua Tagovailoa of the Miami Dolphins. Not an easy matchup going up against the New York Jets. You have to drop the ceiling down here just a little bit. That Jets defense has the opportunity to really limit overall offenses. But you can also see the strings unraveling a little bit there for the Jets, and that's why Tua's still inside the top 12 at number 10. Number 11 is Justin Herbert in a very difficult matchup going up against the Baltimore Ravens. Now, over the past couple weeks, Justin Herbert has proven that all he really needs is Keenan Allen and his legs. Justin Herbert with over 70 yards rushing last week, I would love to see that more often. In a difficult matchup against Baltimore, we just might, and that's why he's at number 11. Number 12, it's Josh Dobbs. At the time of this recording, we do not know whether or not we're going to have a full-go Justin Jefferson or not, but the matchup, it's not bad. Chicago, way easier to throw on than they are to run on, so for right now, Dobbs is at 12. 13 is Jared Goff, Detroit Lions, in a matchup going up against Green Bay. A Green Bay defense that is absolutely torched right now. Goff's ceiling has really taken a hit with this running game producing so many touchdowns, but he's still a safe, solid quarterback each and every week. He's at number 13. 14, Sam Howell, probably the lowest he's been ranked in a while, but is really due to the matchup on the road against Dallas on Thanksgiving. Now, we know that Washington's going to have to throw the ball a lot, but that could also lead to a few turnovers, which we've seen Sam Howell have in the past. That's why I've dropped him down a few spots to 14. 15 is Trevor Lawrence. Saw him come back last week with a vengeance. The overall quarterback 1 in fantasy football. Was that Jacksonville turning the corner? Or was it just a blip on the radar? Now they have a great matchup going up against Houston. I got Trevor Lawrence at 15. 16 is Jordan Love. And he just continues to go out there weekly and be a solid fantasy quarterback. 0 people really give him respect. Nobody really wants to start Jordan Love. But in a matchup going up against Detroit, which is really tough to run on, and Green Bay having a banged up running back room, I expect Jordan Love to throw the ball a ton here once again in week 12. He's at 16. 17, it's Baker Mayfield, the Bake Show of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on the road against Indianapolis. Baker's really one of those guys that's just a safe 15 points a week. He's not going to win you a matchup. He's not going to lose you a matchup. And going up against the Colts here this week, I got him at 17. 18, his opponent in that game, Gardner Minshew. Now, this is a great matchup for him going up against this Tampa Bay secondary who's missing multiple starters. But ever since we got a fully healthy Jonathan Taylor back in Indianapolis, we really haven't seen Gardner Minshew throwing the ball as much as he was earlier in the season. Because of that, he's number 18. 19, this is where I currently have Derek Carr. He's still technically in the concussion protocol at the time of this recording. Does he clear it in time to play? In a matchup going up against Atlanta, honestly, from a ceiling perspective, I would rather have Jameis Winston. But for all the Alvin Kamara owners out there, I know you're hoping it's Derek Carr. For right now, he's at 19. 20, it's Matthew Stafford. And who is he going to have to throw the ball to? Cooper Kupp with an ankle sprain. Puka Nacua with a shoulder injury. Ben Skoranek with a hip pointer injury. It's just a laundry list of injuries there in LA. At least they get Kyren Williams back just in time to face the Arizona Cardinals, but I got Matthew Stafford at 20. 21, it's Russell Wilson. And really all he does these days is dink and dunk down the field until it's time for the fourth quarter to come along, and then he needs to heave one down the field to Courtland Sutton. But this is a very difficult matchup going up against Cleveland, so I got Russell down at 21. 22, it's Geno Smith, another quarterback that is just hoping to have some wide receiver options to throw it to. DK Metcalf was downgraded on Tuesday with a toe injury. We already know that Tyler Lockett and Jake Bobo, they're already on the injury report as of right now as well. Geno's going to need some healthy receivers because it's way easier to throw on San Francisco than it is to run on them, but for right now, he's at 22. 23, it's Desmond Ridder, once again the starter in Atlanta. A matchup going up against New Orleans, and a New Orleans defense that isn't going to have Marshawn Lattimore. Not a super high ceiling for Desmond Ridder, thanks to Arthur Smith, but I got him at 23. And then 24, it's Will Levis, Tennessee Titans, with a matchup going up against the Carolina Panthers. Now, this Tennessee offense isn't going to put up a ton of points. We all know that. But that big playability is there week in and week out, and as a low-end quarterback, too, I got Will Levis at 24. Which will then wrap up the quarterback rankings, but we're not done in this show. Now we got to talk about tight ends, the football kind, so let's throw it over to Kyle.
Oh man, if you had Mark Andrews, then I am sure that you're trying to figure out what to do at the tight end position this week. And hopefully you were able to hit the waiver wires, or you had somebody backing him up to go ahead and throw into your lineup. But I've got my top 18 tight ends for you this week, and then a few guys just on the outside looking in. And honestly, I think this is a pretty decent week for tight ends. So this would be the best week for you to try and fill that position. Let's hop into it. Number one overall is going to be my boy, not Travis Kelce. We're going to go TJ Hockenson this week. Maybe I'm catching you off guard with TJ Hockenson over Travis Kelce this week, but TJ Hockenson gets the Chicago Bears, who allow the fourth most fantasy points to the tight end position. We know Minnesota probably going to be throwing the ball around quite a bit, given how good Chicago can be against the run. So for me personally, I'm going to take TJ Hockenson's ceiling over Travis Kelce's this week, which is also good. Travis Kelce going up against Las Vegas. But in terms of what they allow in the passing game, it's a lot less than what Chicago allows. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and roll with TJ Hockenson over Travis Kelce. Is Travis Kelce safer? Probably always, but TJ Hockenson definitely has a better ceiling for me this week. Philadelphia's defense is currently ranked 25th against the pass, and Dalton Kincaid has been putting up some fantastic numbers over the last several weeks. Since Dawson Knox went down with his injury, I expect him to still be included heavily in the game plan against a secondary that is known to give up yards. George Kittle continues to put up fantastic numbers. Now, you might want to call it a little bit luck. You might want to call it a little bit boom or bust because he's doing a whole lot more with a whole lot less right now. But because they have so many weapons all over the field, George Kittle is able to find open space and turn them into huge gains. And at the tight end position, sometimes it's better to just chase those points with high upside like George Kittle than to try and rely on somebody else. Green Bay's secondary is ranked 7th against the pass right now, but they have allowed a few more plays to the tight end position than the wide receivers this year. And I think Sam Laporta is going to be a big part of the game plan on Thanksgiving going up against this Green Bay defense. The outside receivers might be locked down a little bit, which means we're going to have to get the ball to Sam Laporta, and he could end up having a fantastic day. David Njoku looked to be the number one target for DTR this past week, and now he's getting a Denver Broncos defense that ranks last in terms of fantasy points allowed to the tight end position. Definitely a great opportunity this week for David Njoku if he can get all of the volume that he got like last week to put up some big numbers. And quite honestly, I could see David Njoku going as high as tight end 4 or maybe even tight end 3 this week. He's one of my favorite tight ends to play if you have him already. Dalton Schultz is only averaging 3 receptions and 45 yards per game, but he's got 5 touchdowns on the season. And that right there locks me into Dalton Schultz at number 7 going up against Jacksonville, because we know Houston is going to be throwing the football in this matchup. This will be one of the more difficult matchups for them to run against than we've seen over the last couple of weeks. And with the way CJ Stroud has looked, I'm fully confident that he can find Dalton Schultz for another score again this week. And number 8, Trey McBride. Now, I do believe his ceiling has dropped just a little bit because Kyler Murray will spread the ball around a little bit more often than what we've seen the other quarterbacks for Arizona do this year. Kyler Murray's a little bit more confident in his ability to work with some of those other wide receivers. So for Trey McBride, maybe the ceiling comes down a little bit, but I still think he has a fantastic floor that can bring in 5 targets at least a week. At number 9, Taysom Hill. And the reason I've got him here against Atlanta is because Michael Thomas is dealing with an injury. Jameis Winston may end up being the quarterback this week. No news on whether Derek Carr is going to be able to go. And for all those reasons, they're going to have to get Taysom Hill involved. Let's hope they can get back to some of the production, though, that he had a few weeks ago when he was actually being worked into the passing game. But the good news is Atlanta does allow a whole lot of points to the tight end position, even if Taysom Hill isn't really playing the tight end position. Jake Ferguson is going to come in at number 10. I believe his floor is right around this area, even if his ceiling could push him up to at least number 8. We're going to have to throw the ball a lot against Washington, though, and I do believe that is going to happen, but I also believe that Jake Ferguson is going to have to see 7 or 8 targets to go a lot higher, and Dallas just hasn't given him those type of targets on a consistent basis this season. A touchdown absolutely pushes him up towards the top 5, and if he can get 7 to 10 targets, he could be one of the top 4 tight ends this week. Jonnu Smith at number 11 going up against New Orleans, and I've got him this high because even though the New Orleans defense is ranked 8th against the pass right now, a large chunk of the production that they give up through the air tends to be tight ends, especially when you get into the red zone and the way that they score against New Orleans. Give me some Jonnu Smith to find the end zone this week and still be one of Desmond Ridder's main targets. At number 12, Evan Ingram. He's safe. That's about it. He's going to get you points that put him in between 12 and 15 on a weekly basis. He doesn't score any touchdowns, and he doesn't see a ton of yards. He gets targets, and he catches those targets for the most part. He's one of the safer tight ends that you can play because you know exactly what you're going to get every single week. Cole Kmet at number 13 going up against Minnesota. Cole Kmet is just a roller coaster of a tight end. He's going to give you top 5 performances, or he's going to be outside the top 15. Chicago is probably going to have to throw it in this matchup, though. And the Minnesota defense has been known to give up some chunk yards through the air. Cole Kmet is going to have to find the end zone, though, if he wants to go any higher than this. Logan Thomas at number 14 is exactly like Evan Ingram for the most part. My biggest issue with Logan Thomas this week is that his matchup against Dallas is going to be a tough one. Dallas does a pretty good job of limiting tight ends, and because of that, Logan Thomas has an extremely low ceiling this week. Isaiah Likely at number 15 may not have the upside that you have seen from him in his previous matchups where he had no Mark Andrews, because for Isaiah Likely, he has a lot more weapons around him now than he had last season. So while he has a decent floor, because I do believe he will be worked into the game plan this week, I don't believe we're going to see Mark Andrews-like numbers. Kyle Pitts at number 16. I'm not sure what you want me to say about Kyle Pitts other than he is so disappointing. And if you drafted him once again this year, you are once again disappointed. At number 17, Tanner Hudson. I am way higher than Tanner Hudson than a lot of the people in the industry, and that's okay because they don't call me the tight end whisperer for nothing. And I'm going to whisper it into existence that Tanner Hudson has a decent week this week with the backup quarterback and a banged up wide receiver core. Give me some Tanner Hudson to not have a huge ceiling, but give me 4 catches for 47 yards. And yeah, let's go ahead and lock that in. No touchdown this week, but just enough fantasy points to potentially be in your lineup. Cade Otton at number 18 going up against Indianapolis. That does do a pretty good job of giving up a lot of points to the tight end position. Cade Otton really could go as high as probably tight end 12 for me this week, but even with how much he plays, he's not used consistently enough, and because of that, it's really hard to go any higher with him. All right, now I got just a few guys on the outside looking in. Pat Freiermuth has a great matchup this week, but he's going to have to find the end zone. Cincinnati allows a ton of fantasy points to the tight end position. If they can get him going this week, he actually could end up being a top 10 tight end, but I don't know if I quite trust it just yet. Donald Parham, really, his existence depends on whether or not Gerald Everett plays this Sunday. Keep an eye on that. If you're desperate for a tight end, Donald Parham could see a few extra targets given how beat up they are right now for their pass catchers. Luke Musgrave going up against Detroit has a lot of big play potential. He is listed as questionable right now. Keep an eye on that. He might only get you 3 receptions this week, but hopefully those 3 receptions go for over 50 yards. Tyler Higbee could see a ton of targets this week if Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp both end up missing. Going up against Arizona, Tyler Higbee has a super safe floor if that ends up happening. And Hunter Henry, when you take a look at Hunter Henry, hopefully coming out of the bye, they get him worked back into the game plan a whole lot more, because honestly, him and Mac Jones, they could be really good together. They trust each other. We just got to get them on the same page, and you have to incorporate that into the game plan. We'll see what New England has up their sleeve coming out of the bye. All right, Headliner Nation, there you go. I've got it all set for you. My top 18 tight ends and just a few guys on the outside looking in, but hopefully these rankings help you get your lineup set for a fun week of football. 3 games on Thursday, 1 on Friday. Of course, the main slate on Sunday and Monday Night Football. But Headliner Nation, hopefully you all have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you all later on the Fantasy Headliners.